Oop, that light's still on. Hello. I am very tired today. I had a rough night last night. I went to bed at a normal time, but I woke up at 6. And for me, a normal time is about midnight, so a little bit of a rough night last night. So I'm pretty tired. So I'm not doing anything crazy. Instead, we're clearing some stuff out of the freezer. And that's the plan. Real basic, real simple. We're using stuff up and making tasty food out of odds and ends. I mean, it's what I always do, but this time I'm doing it tiredly. So I thought out one of these pre-made pizza doughs. Obviously, it's not in there anymore because it would have had to have thawed out. And it's in a lightly warmed oven waiting for us to get to it. I've thawed out some chicken thighs, and I've got some bacon that came out of the discount bin. So I'm thinking chicken, bacon, cheese, Stromboli. We're not going to put ranch in them because you don't want a lot of liquid inside of Stromboli. And also I don't have any ranch. And also I'm not a real big fan of ranch. But we can add some of the spices from ranch into it to sort of mimic the flavor profile. And then the sauce, we're going to have a sauce on the outside, which is going to be based on the slow-cooked tomato sauce that I made a bit ago. But we won't do that until the actual thing is in the oven, and the thing won't be in the oven until it's filled, and it won't be filled until we make the filling. So the first thing is to start making filling. So that's where we are going to start. I don't know why this is, probably just because the date was close. But we're going to start by chopping up a bunch of bacon. Well, we're going to use the big pan today because I want to have a lot of room because we're going to make a lot of filling. Where do they do this? Bob Evans brand bacon. Sure, why not? I don't know anything about Bob Evans. We're doing this part first also because I don't want to deal with the chicken. Well, the bacon will help lubricate our pan, and I also don't want to touch the chicken until I have to. So that's two reasons to do the bacon first. Ooh. It's always worth it to give bargain bin meat a quick sniff test just to be sure. Bacon is pretty hearty stuff, but you never know. We're going to take half of it. And I guess the other half is going to get wrapped up. I don't think we need that. Well, I'll see how much we've got once I've peeled off half of it. Let me rinse my hands very briefly so that I can grab my big pan. Remember, the big pan doesn't have a place to live. It lives around the corner. But what it'll do is it'll give me a chance to push things out. Oop, the steamer is still in there. Push things out to the sides and ensure that we're not crowding the pan. But step one, Flamingo, hi, welcome, welcome. Ooh. Cutting these chunky because they'll shrink up when we cook them, and I don't mind big pieces either way. This is very lean bacon, actually. I'm surprised. But pleased, I usually go for the leaner bacon anyways. I'm not a big fan of the really fatty stuff. I have not discussed Stromboli versus calzone. Would you like to start that discussion? If so, the floor is yours. Don't let me stop you. Are you asking what's the difference between a Stromboli and a calzone? Well, when I get to actually constructing it, you will definitely see the difference between a Stromboli and a calzone. But the main thing, from my perspective, is a calzone is more like a pie, like a pasty. It's folded over the filling, pinched shut around the edge, and contains it. Whereas a Stromboli is more like a roulade, where it is a rolled dough. So on the inside, you get a spiral of dough with the filling taking up the space in between the spiral. Bookwoman, I see you found the Prime button. Hello, welcome. So Strombolis tend to be more open and leaky because they're not pinched shut the same way. But the ingredients are very similar. Well, congratulations, you found the Prime. Bezos sure couldn't hide that from you, except for the 2 previous times when he totally did. I think this is going to be plenty of bacon. Once I get all these little pieces separated out from each other. Oh, so how's everyone else's day been? You can make your own Stromboli. If you've got pizza dough, because it's the same dough, you can make your own. But I understand if you don't want to make your own and just want to get one. Stromboli, here's a big difference. In the serving, because of the difference in how they're formed, Strombolis are typically sliced for service. And you get like cross sections of the spiral. And calzones are served whole because it's a pie. Now, in America, there's those giant calzones that are definitely way too big for a single person, and you end up cutting those apart. And also there are miniature Strombolis that are clearly meant to be eaten as a single eater, and thus they aren't sliced. So, Selena, hi, welcome, welcome. Happy Friday. Ugh. Get all of these bacons separated out. Oh, Selena, you're first. You made it. You succeeded. You beat everyone else here. No one was here before you. Not a single person. It's amazing how often that happens. How's it going? I'm very tired. I'm moving a little slow, so I'm doing something easy. Easy and tasty. I probably could have thrown those just in as globs and had them separate as they cooked, but eh. Oh, let's see. Now that I've opened this bacon, we're gonna probably have to use the other half of this bacon on Monday or over the weekend, because it was already bargain bin bacon, and now that it's out of its original packaging, I don't really want to refreeze it. Oh, that's an idea. Just a little bit of dough, because what's the size on one of these guys? I've never measured. Here, while our bacon is heating up, and I've got a little bit of time. Okay. Before I do that, we're taking the other half of the bacon. We're splitting it down the middle. We're throwing it in this bag so that I'm not climbing over it for the next hour. I don't do mini food very much. That could be something I could play with. You have to change baking times. You have to change cooking times for mini food. And sometimes you have to change proportions in ways you're not expecting. Especially for things like binders and sauces. So it might take a little fiddling to get it right. But considering the approximate size of a thing here, which I should have a measuring thing. I don't have one handy, and I'm not going to go find one. It's about a hand. My hand. I've got long hands. It's about a hand. So I'd say that would make a pretty good single serve Stromboli, sort of out to the ends. And it's round, so you might even be able to trick it into doing two calzones side by side. We're not using that today. We're making a big one. But that's an interesting idea. We could attempt mini food. Meanwhile, over here, our bacon is baconing. I am going to call out Bob Evans and his bacon. It smells good, but this is not thick cut bacon. This is at best medium, but they're pretty skinny. They're not paper thin. I'm worried that this brand's thin bacon might be like really paper thin. If they're thick as this thin. Broil some mini garlic. Now that's a good idea because it does have the broiler coil at the top. I was doing something in it, and I had the problem of when I put the rack into the broil position, the food just barely touched the coil at the top, because the one I have, I don't know if you can see it. I've seen a couple slightly different models of it. The one I have there has nothing between the food and the coil. It's just exposed. I've seen some that have a mesh, a metal mesh. Okay, well, I've seen some that have like a metal mesh so that if your food is slightly too tall, it doesn't touch the coil. Because if it does that, it's going to burn. um, the parts that touch those coils burn real fast. Um, this sure is cooking up like cheap bacon does. Well, that's fine. We're stuffing it inside some things. We don't have to look at it. Um, I have made. What have I made in there? You know what I made, and this is actually a point in favor of what you're proposing. I made some grilled cheese sandwiches in that thing. Um, and I didn't do it on the broil mode. I did it on the air fry mode. And I did have to flip them after a couple minutes, but it was quick. I got really good browning and crisp. And I didn't have to put the rack into broil mode to get it. They didn't have to ride up at the top. They could sit down at the bottom and be all nice and safe. So I think if you got your sizing right, that would be an appropriate thing to play with. Um, it also just doesn't it have a. We're talking about the food. We're not even using the thing today. Um, we're not even using the damn thing today. Doesn't it have a bake mode? I don't think I've used that, where it just gets hot in there. Um, well, while that bacon is moving, let's get out the chicken. Now the chicken, I also have dug out of my freezer. We're it. The theme today is I was very tired and I didn't go shopping, so we're digging stuff out of my freezer and making it into food. And that's why I have freezer burned chicken. Because this has been in there too long. But again, we're stuffing it inside something, so it should be okay. But it needs to get minced up. Because I don't want big pieces. I want small pieces. And this, we are using the entire package. Bacon's a flavoring, but this is the main event. And it's going to be cooked in that bacon fat that we're getting on the go back there right now, along with its own schmaltz. Oh, I freezer burn meats all the time, especially because I buy stuff. Now that I have the vacuum sealer, it's not happening, but I still have things from before the vacuum sealer. Because I'll see something on discount and I'll just grab it and throw it in the freezer. Much like these, which if you saw the package before I tore it off, said $3. Now that I have that vacuum sealer, though, it get the air out of them. They don't freezer burn the same way. Because you'll even notice this one where it was touching the plastic, it's fine. It's where it was exposed to the air that was trapped in the package with it that it got freezer burned. Air exposed. I mean, things will freezer burn eventually if you leave them in there forever and ever, but air exposure is where the freezer burn really gets you. But again, stuffing this inside of something, perfect use for it. This also would have been good in a soup. Anything where you don't really, where it's going to get cooked to heck, and you don't really care about what it looks like. I didn't even check the date on it. Considering the freezer burn, it's got to be a little bit old. Let me probably take a peek at the bacon. We're going to pull the bacon out so that I don't burn it. So I want to get it most of the way to where I want it. I've got chickeny hands, even though they've been frozen for months. I don't fully trust. Oh, yep. Our bacon is getting I haven't used this kind of just sliced store-bought basic bacon in a long time because I've had a big chunk of unsliced smokehouse bacon that I got from the Newski's Smokehouse. And when I need bacon, I just kind of shave some off. So I'm not used to all that residue. But yeah, here, my hands are kind of gross. $3.19, and it's from the winter. So it's been in there about 6 months. I'm going for, in this specific situation, I'm going for chewy, but on the high end of chewy. Because it's going to get recooked, and I don't want to completely overcook it. My preference for bacon depends on the kind of bacon you start with. Thin sliced, like classic American thin streaky, I like real crispy. The thick stuff, I like with a little bit of chew. Mags! Hi! Welcome, welcome. How is it going? But I'm thinking like, when I have a BLT, I don't want that bacon to be shatteringly crisp because I want a thick piece of bacon in there, and I want it to have a little bit of chew to it to give a good texture contrast with all the other things that are in the BLT. So it depends on some things. But if I'm just eating plain old straight bacon, as opposed to the gay bacon, so this stuff is probably going to come out now, and then we'll add it back in. We're going to try to scrape this stuff up as well. It was leaner than I was expecting. I just need a place to put it. I got that once, you know, Mags. Not that exact order, but I got delivered food by mistake. Well, I should say, I've had it more than once. Usually it's one street over, and I know them, so I just walk it over and say, "Hey, I got your food." But one time it was this address, and I had no idea who the person's name on the thing was, so I just kept it. I actually tried to take it back, and it was such a headache to try to get it to go back that it was just easier to keep it. We're throwing a little bit of butter in there because I was expecting a little bit more bacon fat. But main event is chicken. And then we're going to immediately, well, I say immediately, we're going to push it around. We're going to immediately wash our knife and our board, and I think wipe down my counter over there, just so that we are clear of chicken. Before moving forward. Again, this chicken has been in the freezer for 6 months, so it's not the it's unlikely that there's a bunch of ick in the chicken when it's been frozen for that long, but it's still possible, so. Yeah. Fancy Irish butter? No. This is store brand unsalted. Yeah, it's store brand. It's not even like a name brand. It's my grocery store's brand. Okay. Which also comes out of the freezer, because I buy butter when it's on sale, and stick it in the freezer, and then I just transfer it down to the fridge as needed. Now, does that smell like soap? It does. We need to do a wipe down with a wet rag to pick up the extra soap. We need to push our chicken around, which is producing enough liquid to start picking up that, yes it is, start picking up that bacon schmear. I think we're going to give it a little pinch of salt. Irish butter is actually a different ingredient. It's not just fancier butter. It has a different proportion of butter fat. Well, all the European butters do, from American butter. But Irish butter also is like fermented just a teeny tiny bit, so it has that little just hint of almost like a whisper of a cheese flavor to it. So I really would only use it in places where you're gonna taste it. I think it would be a little bit of a, like for this, for example, I don't know that I'd even notice it in there. Oh, although you say, boy, does it elevate things. But yeah, you know me, I'm obsessively thrifty. So here, I'll show you. I'll show you the butter. Name of grocery store: unsalted butter. Now, of course, I also live in Wisconsin, the land of dairy. So when my grocery store is getting butter, it's sourced from somewhere nearby, just because there's milk everywhere. Um, Good. Our chicken juice has picked up most of our bacon schmear schleam. Yeah, there's milk. There's milk everywhere. Wisconsin, the only place where eating a pound of cheese by yourself is perfectly acceptable behavior. You can buy a bag of fresh cheese curds at the store, at most grocery stores, and at a lot of places actually, and you can reasonably be expected to just eat them yourself. And it's just cheese. It's not like it's some special kind of cheese. It's just young cheese. Uh, Comes in a big old bag. We're gonna throw an onion in this, so I'm peeling a big old onion. This onion was also in a discount. Some of the onions in the discount bag with this onion were very gnarly and did not last long. But some of them were perfectly fine. Why did I pick this knife? Why did I pick the smallest knife in the world? Big knife. Okay. We're going to get another bowl. We're going to pull the chicken out. As it looks doneish. Well, not done, but it's looks all cooked. So I'm going to get it out of there. This time we're going to use the slotted spoon because I want those drippings to stay behind. Do this on the other side so I can. Okay. Okay. Chicken drippings, which includes butter and bacon drippings. We're kind of building our flavors here in the pan. Although now I think things aren't coming out until they are going to go into the finished roll. But I'm glad I decided at the start to use the big pan because we would not have had enough room for all of this if I had used even the next size down. This being that giant pan that I found a great deal on, if you'll remember it. Should we throw a bell pepper in there? What do you think? You have an amount of time to make a decision while I look at spices. I got a bunch of bell peppers sitting here on the side. They aren't in urgent need of use, but they're not like super fresh. They look about like this. They're getting maybe a touch of the wrinkles around the edges. A couple of them have started to develop orange spots from ripening. They could go either way. Orange one. Okay. I get bell peppers in the discount bin. This was another discount bin thing. I get them super frequently now that I found the produce discounts, and the peppers always seem really, really nice. I'm not sure. They must just get a ton of extra peppers and have to turn them over. I don't have any better plan. You see my plan. My plan is this. We're in the plan. You are the plan. We got a baby pepper inside that pepper. So no, there was no plan. I grabbed them because they were 5 peppers in a bag for $1. And I'm like, sure. If nothing else, I know I can dry them and they will be good. Let's get rid of all of that and use the big knife to make that go fast. Which is what I've done with the last couple of batches. So the grocery store I keep finding the cheap produce at, and it has been the source of all of the fruits and vegetables that I point out as being cheap, is Woodman's, which I believe is not in the South, and it's a co-op rather than a traditional. It's called Woodman's Food Market. It's employee-owned co-op, well, something something. And their produce isn't the best, but it seems to have a very high turnover rate. And when they have extra, they just dump it in the discount bin. Isosceles, hi. Welcome, welcome. Otherwise, the biggest thing, and even people, I find discount stuff at Festival, but I don't find discount produce at Festival. I find meats, frozens, and grocery items, but I don't know what they do with their short-dated produce. I think they just leave it on the shelf until it gets gnarly, and then throw it away. Slide over here. I feel like our pan here needs a little lubrication. I'm thinking about our flavors that we're already working with. Chicken, bacon, onions, peppers. We're kind of in the realm. I don't know what we're in the realm of. We're in a realm. We're kind of in a realm. Let me peruse my selection. We could throw in a little bit of that marsala, which I've been drinking on the side. And I stopped because the store's sold out and I can't get more. But that might be a nice thing to sort of loosen up the bottom of the pan. So we'll get that handy. We want these to be, they're not going to get a lot of extra cooking once they're in the roll, in the dough. So we want to get them cooked pretty much exactly where we want them before we throw them in. And we're going to put the chicken back in there, we're going to put the bacon back in there, we're going to get both of them, we're going to get all the flavors kind of melded together. And then we're going to set this aside, let it cool off a little bit, because if I throw it screaming hot onto the dough, it's going to do something bad, I'm sure. Probably. And then after that, we're going to switch to the dough. We're going to work on the dough. And then that's going in the oven, and while it's in the oven, I'm going to work on a sauce, because again, there's no sauce going inside, because we don't want it to be wet in there. We want the ingredients to be mostly cooked out. So another reason I'm very tired today is I took a very long walk yesterday. A 3-hour walk, for which I wore shoes only graded for 2 hours, so I ended up with blisters, which was very unfortunate. I also came back mighty tired and fell asleep very easily, crashed dead asleep very easily, which was great. But then I woke up really, really early this morning, which was not great. Kind of spoiled the whole results. So it was unfortunate. It was a good walk. It was a beautiful day for walking yesterday. So I just went out and then I kept just taking, like, I could go that way and get home real quick, or I could just go the other way and make it longer. And I just kept doing that. I ended up getting ice cream. I ended up walking to an ice cream place miles away. Today would not have been a good day for a walk. It was cooler today than it was yesterday, but it was also rainy. Yesterday was a little bit warmer, but it was breezy and dry, so it was beautiful, beautiful walk weather. And I got a little bit of sunburn. I remembered to wear a hat, but my arms were sticking out. Fun. Okay, let's get the bacon and its drippings back in there. And the chicken and its drippings. And now the easy thing to do would be to just take this and put it in a tortilla and call it a fajita and put some hot sauce on it. But we're not doing the easy thing. Even though my whole thesis today was, I'm very tired, so I'm doing something easy. Okay, we're going to give this a shot of Marsala wine. Which will give us some wine flavor, some sweetness, steam away the alcohol, and help loosen up some of the fond, although I may have not added quite enough to loosen up the fond in a pan this large. We're going to bring the heat down. Black pepper. Garlic powder, onion powder. Not a ton of these this time, but as I said ages ago, I kind of want to put some of the elements of buttermilk seasoning in here because I'm not putting, not buttermilk, ranch seasoning in here because I'm not putting ranch itself in. We're kind of borrowing a little bit from that side without going all in on it. Get some basil in there. My basil is coming up very, very, very slowly this year, and I'm worried I might not get much at the pace it's currently coming up, which is strange because everyone else I know who has planted basil is coming up great. So something's up with my basil. I did start mine from seed, so perhaps they weren't very good seeds. Basil is not an element of ranch dressing, but I think it will taste good in here. I want this to cook a little bit out. Before we go ahead, I'm going to put the lid on it. I don't want it to dry out too much more. Oh, let's slide over here while that does that on a modest temperature. Get our knives out of the way. Also, we need to get our oven preheating, which means I need to get the dough out of it so I don't wreck up my dough. Dough. Oven hot. Set oven to hot. Set oven to 400. So this is a pre-made dough that I thawed and then peeled out of its package, threw it in this bowl, put it in that oven, turned the oven on to warm, and then as soon as it said it got to warm, I turned it off, just so it would be warm and not constantly heat, because the warm setting on an oven is the one it can't maintain very well, and it tends to cycle a lot and overheat, and you can really cook your dough. I'm going to need my flour tower for this. And this is why I washed my work surface as well, because we're going to roll it out right here. Okay. A little dustaroo on the top. Punch it down. Try to make it a rectangle to start with so that it is more of a rectangle as we get into it. Cybertraz, hi. Gosh, there's people. Collective shout out. Go follow Cybertraz and Flamingo and Jones and I don't know, follow Bookwoman too. Give everyone a follow. Hands are covered in chicken and flour. What did I just hear behind me? I don't know. Let's take our filling off the heat because I do actually need it to be not FLCL. Sorry, fully coolly. Hi, welcome, welcome. According to the thing that just popped up around your name, you haven't been here before. So, welcome. Yeah, I know what FLCL stands for. I'm no fool. Everyone's here. Everyone's here. All the lovelies. Okay, we're trying to get the air pockets squeezed out of this and make it kind of a big rectangle. We're making a big boy. We're making a big boy out of this. We're rolling it out as big as I would roll it out for a pizza, but in a different shape. Insomnia or exciting purposes behind your wakefulness? I too was awake at an hour I normally am not, and it was for exclusively bad reasons. It was insomnia. Ooh, I shouldn't have rolled you out quite so aggressively without flipping you one more time, because we are getting a little stickage, which isn't the end of the world, but I have to be careful not to tear it, because I don't want big holes. Jay! Jay, what are you doing? What are you doing? Stop it. How dare you? God, everybody showed up all at once. Oh, we're sticking. Don't stick. It's right there that we're sticking. Right there that we're sticking. Okay, okay. We're unstuck. We're on the other side. We're dusting this side. I am afraid Flower Tower is moving to the other side because I keep bumping it, and I'm afraid I'm going to knock the whole thing on the ground, and then we will have a disaster. Okay, okay. We're rolling it this way. We're making it more of a roulade than they typically are. Yeah, that way. So that's the outer leaf. So that's the outer leaf. We fill it on this side and we go roly, 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 and it ends over there. And we put it on this tray, which we line with, I've got a reference up, parchment. Which makes sense for baking, but I always check. If they don't tell me, I usually reach for aluminum foil because it's the easiest one to clean up. There. Ah. So, Jay, what are you doing? You subscribed. Why? What have I done to deserve this? We also got cheese, because there's, of course, cheese. Oh, a plate in the kitchen. That makes sense. I'm doing that right now. Wow. We're going to use up this cheese, because it was discount cheese. And then I've also got just some mozzarella that I actually bought new. I actually bought a new thing, brand new, for this. Let's, before I commit, let's give a taste to our filling, just to make sure I haven't completely screwed it up before it goes in. You should, and I frequently don't because I want to have a nice surprise taste at the end, but you should always taste as you go. Yeah, I'm making one big egg roll. We're going to deep fry this. That tastes pretty good. And I don't think it's screaming hot. So we're going to go ahead and start shoveling it onto our thing here. It's steaming, but not screaming. Yes, this filling would be good with lots of stuff. It's very easy, straightforward veggies and meat. You could put it on pasta, you could put it in a stromboli, you could just throw it in a tortilla and have fajitas, like I said earlier. Like if you don't want to go through the whole, you could throw it on top of a pizza. If you don't want to go through the whole process of making a thing out of it, and I am deliberately kind of spreading it thin. I'm not worried about gaps because we're rolling this thing up, and there's also going to be a bunch of cheese. But yeah, this is a pretty basic, just all-around good stuff. And all of these ingredients are readily available and, okay, except probably the marsala, but honestly, you could get away with just ignoring that. Oh my God. Max, we just talked about this with Jay. What are you doing? My God. It's madness in here. Uh, Heck. We're just using the whole bag of cheese. Hard to be too cheesy with a thing such as this. And what else am I going to do with cheese? Eat it? Gross. Okay. Oh my God. Max. Max. What are you doing? What are you doing? Move my flour tower so I don't flour the world. Gift subs to Cybertrash. Gift subs to FLCL. Telling me to eat a whole bag of cheese. Cats and dogs living in harmony. Mass hysteria. Okay, we're gonna gentle this because the filling was warm, so it has softened up my dough. And made it extra sticky, which is why I'm glad I have a big flap at the end for this. Well, thank you so much. That's 4 subs. It's large. I'm making a big one. We're making a big one. I may have rolled it a scooch too thin. In my hubris. So we'll find out what it looks like when we're done. I should not have pinched the end shut until I got the air out as well. Okay. It is... Okay. I'm not going to try to pick that up the way I was about to. We're going to green screen it instead. And we've torn the outer bottom. Good. Because I put the flour away and didn't flour anything. Ha ha. Okay, well, I guess that's the top now. In hindsight, parchment should have been on the worktop. Here. Yes. Well, you know what they say about hindsight. It's too late. I also made it enormous, which is not helping my cause. But yes. So instead of a stromboli, we're making a mess. I should have floured this. As well. But it's on the pan. I would just suggest not making one so big and not rolling it out so thin. I rolled it out too thin, that's for sure. I aggressively rolled it out and it was too thin. But this is what it's doing. There's nothing I can do for it now. It's going in the oven, as is. Ugh. It's really too bad that it tore like that. The thin side should have been on the bottom and the thick flap should have ended up on the top, which if I had rolled it directly onto the parchment, I could have just lifted the parchment and put it on the baking sheet, centered it properly, and had the side I wanted to be on top be on top. So we might have a soggy bottom. We're going to find out. But, yeah, number one, don't roll it out so thin. Like I had tails on either end that definitely meant I rolled it out too wide. Oh well. This is why I'm not earning your subs. Okay. Well, nothing more we can do about that now. But we are producing a sauce to go with it. This sauce is mostly made. It needs to be heated up. Pop back over here. The large quantity of tomatoes that I threw in the slow cooker and let go for 24 hours resulted in this dark red, verging on brown, chunky tomato sauce. It's pretty basic. There's no onion in it. There's some bell peppers in it because I had some of those and they needed to go as well, so I just chucked them in. And there's a whole bunch of garlic in it. So we could throw onion in it, but there's onion in our roll, so we might not need that. It needs to be heated up and it needs to be de-chunkified a bit. And it probably needs a little dimension, so I'm... Oh yeah, there's a little bit of spice in it too because there was an extra jalapeno that just got chucked in there. It was a take all the vegetables I have that are about to go off, chuck them in a pot, slow cook it until they fall apart. Which I think was a good use of resources. What it does not have in it that sauces typically would is olive oil. And this juice is almost entirely tomato drippings. So there's definitely some things to add to it. that there. We don't need a ton of it. But this was because those tomatoes came out of the bargain bin, so they weren't going to last. The peppers that I had extra were extra peppers from the last time at the bargain bin, and they weren't going to last because when I got them, they looked like this. They were nice and fresh. By that point, they were all starting to look a little wrinkly, and they weren't going to keep very much longer. But this can still be built upon. Some olive oil. There's some spices in it. Oh yeah, I had a very old container of dry basil that I just dumped in there as well. I don't know that it did much, but it was in there. So I already threw oregano on the inside. There's already a lot of garlic in there. We could throw some onion powder in it. To boost its flavor. There's salt, but I don't think there's in literal terms, there's 2 tablespoons of salt, but it was an entire slow cooker filled up to the top. So proportionally, it wasn't that salty. So we'll get it heating up, stir it around, and see what the flavors are doing. We'll try to get that olive oil in there. We will hit it with the masher. The skins of both the peppers and the tomatoes are still in there, so it's never going to be really smooth unless I run it through a sieve, which I don't want to do because I don't care enough. But if you wanted to make something like this smooth, you would either have to skin your vegetables beforehand or sieve them after the fact. But we're going to just hit it with the masher to get some of the bigger chunks, especially the garlic pieces. The garlic is an interesting case because it was also bargain, but it was preserved. It was packaged garlic, but it wasn't minced. It was whole cloves, peeled, and then shrink wrapped with a little bit of what tasted like the brine from garlic. There, that mashed pretty well. So I thought throwing them in, because there was a lot in there too, and I wasn't sure I was going to use it because it wasn't very good when you could really taste it. It needed to be put into something where it would be an element rather than prominent, because it didn't have that fresh garlic loveliness. So I threw it in here. I'm not going to open the oven. I was almost peeked in the oven. I'm not going to open the oven. We're not going to open the oven until I'm sure it's mostly done. That thing is pretty big, so it's going to take a little bit. And while it's taking its little bit, we're just going to play around with this sauce. God, every time I start out the show here, feeling down, feeling tired. I've canceled some shows just because I was like, oh, I can't muster it up today. But I'm always so energized when we actually get into it, even when I'm dead tired at the start. Um, I guess it's you guys. It's what you guys do. This is what you do to me. You chase away the tireds. So thanks, I guess. It's because I'm standing up. That's the thing. When I'm really tired, I go and sit down because I'm tired. But that means my blood's moving slow. Everything's kind of settling and it makes you feel more tired. Here I'm getting up, I'm talking, I'm waving my arms around. And you know me, always talking and waving my arms. Um, yeah, like that. But I think it just wakes me up to be up and about and chitting and chatting. Um, there's already chicken in the thing. There's already pork in the thing. We probably don't need to add any proteins to our sauce. Last time I tasted the sauce, it was rather acidic. Tough to eat on its own as a result. I'm going to add a little bit of wine to it. I think it'll benefit. First of all, it seems like it needs a little extra liquid just from what I'm seeing here. So I'm going to add a little bit of red wine to it. Kind of give it the juice. Here's my advice for getting cooking wine. Because nearly every liquor place I've been to has discount stuff. Get dry wines from the discount shelf because they will be a little bit better than the same price you would get on the main shelf, but not so nice that you're worried about. Because that's what you want. You want a wine that, when selecting a wine for cooking, you want one that you wouldn't be offended to drink, but that you also wouldn't feel bad about throwing into a recipe. I would never use an expensive wine on something like this because it would be a waste. Sure, it'd make the thing taste good, but it wouldn't be using the wine to its fullest. But on the flip side, don't get the cheapest thing you can find because the unpleasantness, the harshness of that bargain basement, bottom shelf cheap crap will carry through into this because the part that you're cooking out is the alcohol, not that harsh tannic blech from poorly made wines. This has been my PSA on wines. Also, I bought this for the Ides of March for our Roman recipe because I didn't have Roman wine. I didn't know where to find ancient Roman wine. And now I can't find it anymore. Every store is sold out of this. And I only have a little bit left because I've discovered that it's super tasty and I like drinking it as a dessert wine. That may not seem like a lot, but for me, going through that much of a bottle of wine since March, April, May, June, 4 months. 4 months to a bottle of wine is fast for me. I don't drink much wine. I'm going to have to go farther afield and see if I can't locate another bottle of it. it wasn't terribly expensive. It was really tasty. And everyone seems optimistic they'll get it back because there's a spot on the shelf for it, even though it's gone. Why are you guys over there? You guys should be over here with me. Now this sauce, all the things in this sauce other than the wine we just put in there, have been thoroughly cooked. So we're just heating this up, reducing it a little bit to make it a little a scooch thicker, and then we're going to be tweaking the flavor. Who makes it? It is made by Gambarelli and DeVito. Gambarelli and DeVito. Labeling, place of origin, type of wine, bottled by Gambarelli and DeVito, Westfield, New York. So, California, New York. And it wasn't like it was some fancy thing. It was like the second shelf. It was what I said. It wasn't, I didn't get it on discount, but it was that sort of second shelf thing, not bottom shelf. I should say, second from the bottom shelf thing. So it wasn't the real garbage at the bottom, but it was sort of that one up. Miss Sepsi, hi, welcome, welcome. We're talking about wines briefly because I'm simmering a sauce and there's a roll in the oven. So, hi, welcome. There's not much cooking being done at the moment other than simmering this sauce. But we're gonna have an exciting find out what happens to that mess I put in the oven in a little bit. How's it going? I think we're going to give that first of all, a turn down slightly and then a taste. A taste to see what we're working with. Does not coat the back of a spoon. I wasn't really expecting it to. There's no roux, there's no thickener in there at all. Oh, very acidic, just like I remembered. Sharp, acidic. Quite a lot spicier than it was when I made it fresh too. I think it might have been slowly infusing as it sits here. Very acidic. It needs something to balance that out. Honestly, what it needs is sweetness. We don't usually add a bunch of sugar to stuff, but what this needs is some sweetness. And the easiest way to do that is just some white sugar. Because it's very acidic and also spicy, and sweetness will help with both of those things. Acidity will help with spice, but I don't want to add more acidity to it. Because it's already very acidic. So let's get a little bit of sweetness in there. How my Friday treated me well. I was just saying how I've been invigorated by coming here with you guys and doing the show. I've been very tired all day because I had a poor night's sleep last night, and I am expecting to go to bed early tonight and hopefully not wake up early again. That was the problem this morning. I woke up very early and could not fall back to sleep, so I was just up. But it sapped my energy for the day. And I promised I would be here today with you to do this. You specifically, Miss Sepsi. So I dragged myself in here and set myself up. And then as always, when I start out tired, I'm vigorous and bouncy by the time we get into the latter half of the show. So I should remember that that's how it always works, that when I'm not feeling it at the start, I just do it and it fixes itself. But it's hard when you're in that tired mindset of being tired. It's hard to be like, yeah, it'll just do it. It'll work out. I don't want to put any starch thickeners in there. We got to taste it. We got to taste to see if that sweetness worked. Yes. It could probably stand a little bit more, but also it's the sauce is going on something, so it doesn't need to be perfectly balanced at this stage, but it probably could stand a little touch more sweetness. But that did exactly help it. It took the edge off. The first time I tasted it, it's sour enough, acidic enough that it made my corners of my jaw pinch. I could feel the pinch from the acidity. There's that fly. He's been bugging me all day too, and I can never get him. But that took just the kiss of the edge off. I am going to add a little bit more, but I'm not going to add more white sugar. I'm going to give it a dribble of molasses. Which will add some flavor and dimension in addition to a little bit more sweetness. Some bitterness, a little bit of, well, molasses flavored. That's sort of that dark sweetness. As opposed to a bright sweetness from something like plain old white sugar or any artificial sweetener. How long has that thing been in there? I lost count. I think it's been 15 minutes, but I could be wrong. Let's see if it's exploded. It has not exploded, but I think it needs to be turned. So we're going to show it off briefly. Are we? You're not going to be able to see it because it's not going to come up high enough to be seen unless I do it deliberately. But I think it needs to be turned around. Ooh, it's leaking. Ooh, it's leaking. Out that one side. Ooh, I think it's gonna be a juicy one. I think it's gonna be a mess. I think we're gonna get the temperature probe on it too. Just to keep an eye on things as we get closer in. You know what this means? We're going to have to add Stromboli to the long, stupid list of things that I will say I need to come back to and practice that I have yet to ever come back to and practice. I need to watch back all of my old shows. Fly. I need to watch back all of my old shows and write down all the things I said I would come back to so that I can actually come back to them. I'm going to get a fly swatter handy in case this guy lands somewhere where I can actually get at him. Without ruining everything. Never did find out where all those flies came from. It wasn't the show day, and I didn't talk about it on Discord. I talked about it with a couple people. I had a day where just an entire swarm of flies invaded the house, and I never found out where they came from. best guess is something died in the wall and the flies found their way through the cracks into the living space. But I couldn't smell anything, so I couldn't like track it down without tearing the walls open. Now I'm extra leery when I start seeing them because it's fresh on my mind, even though I know you get one fly every once in a while. Also, when you're cooking, the flies come to the kitchen because they can smell what you're cooking. They can smell what the rock is cooking, and they too want to eat it. Leave that there. If he wants to get over here by the lights, that's fine. There's no food over here. All the food is away now. I'm putting a few things away while we simmer. Actually, I'm going to stop simmering. I think that sauce has reached its appropriate thickness. It will be full of cheese. Do not worry. You saw all of that cheese I put in there. As long as the cheese doesn't leak out, it'll be full of cheese. And since we've rolled it, even if the outer layer of cheese leaks out, there's inner shielded layers that will hold strong. Putting stuff away real quick because I, once again, have some time and I produced new dishes. I'm not going to get this guy. I can already tell he's too wily. I'll end up getting him later when there's just one room with a light on. Let's see, I was sorting these. I can hear something bubbling in the oven, which in this case means that we've definitely leaked substantially. Because the only thing that could be bubbling in there is juices from the inside of the Stromboli. Ow. Okay, that's the dishes sorted away. Other than, the new ones. Yeah, well, we added red wine and molasses, both of which are going to add more darkness. And then I also reduced it even more from what it was. So there's only a little bit of extra juice. So it's like a dark brick color. Just this side of this side of brown, just on the reddish side of brown. Which in part happened because it was a 24-hour slow cook on a bunch of tomatoes. And the tomatoes started out bright red, and after 12 hours they were still bright red, but after 24 hours they turned very dark. And it actually gave it a smoky, like roasty flavor, even though it never saw the inside of an oven. We didn't do any roasting on those. It was just because I cooked it for so long. The garlics that went in there came out like chocolate brown. Everything went really I think I caramelized the sugars in the tomatoes and in the garlic. And And that's why it really darkened up. Ooh, it's a leaker. It's a juicing. It's juicing hard. How long has it been in there? No one knows. It's impossible to know. Oh, I just noticed my I just noticed my stream preview, not the OBS one, but the one on Twitch says, quote, stream preview, offline, live, excellent. Good job, Twitch. Good job. I'm offline, live, excellent. And also there's nothing there. Beautiful. Flawless. I should get a plate, right? Because we're going to slice this like a Wellington. Oop. Nope, I didn't get him. I shouldn't hunt a fly in the middle of the show here. I should just not. I should just ignore it. It's already on. Let's pull it up to the top here and give it a poke. And also, you can judge what we think it looks like. Because the outer crust is looking pretty good. It obviously has leaked all along the edge that's currently facing you. The outer crust that's not the leaky part is nice and crusty. The thing is, this was a very thick thing. So the part I'm concerned about is the middle. I don't want raw dough in the middle. What temperature does dough do at? Temp of cooked dough. This says 190 to 205, so put it back in. Get that middle up to 190. Oh, the bottom's going to be soggy. There's so much juice on the pan, the bottom is going to be soggy. We can't avoid that. Why am I putting the pot holders away? Don't put the pot holders away. So leave it in there a little bit longer. Let that middle really got. We could pick a plate while we're thinking. It's just going to be that and sauce. So, and we're going to slice it. Probably take 3 slices for plating. And then sauce across the top. We're gonna get rid of this fly. Oh, I almost had him. What do we think for plating? What do we think for the plate? Square with the lines. Square with the lines probably be pretty good. You're going to go square with the lines. Okay, well, while I'm waiting for the last of that thing to finish baking through to the middle, what's everybody else having for dinner? You know how I love to hear about what you guys are cooking. We already heard about chicken tenders and fries from Meg's. 3 cheese garlic toast dipped in marinara. That's basically what I'm making, right? The same thing. That sounds good. What are the 3 cheeses? Here's the question. What are the 3 cheeses? What are you? Pick your poison. What are your cheeses? I'm gonna need the slicer back out. Marinara. Or was it like a mix? A pre-made mix? Fly. Now you're in the camera shot. I got him. Because he was in the camera shot. Cripes sake. He really wanted to be part of the show. He really wanted to be part of the show today. Glad he showed up after we did all the things that he could have gotten himself into. Mozzarella, Parmesan, and provolone. See, I don't know. I know provolone is like a classic include in those kind of mixes. I don't know that I would include provolone in something like that. I think provolone, personally, is better unmelted as a cold cut cheese. I know it's melty, but I think the flavor is better. I think it loses a little bit when you melt it. You've already got mozzarella, which is a good melty cheese, so you could include a cheese that's a little bit harder to melt and have the mozzarella be the bridge to kind of pull it in. That's why you do cheese blends, because the cheeses have different properties, and you can use a melty cheese to help bring a reticent cheese into the mix a little bit. Velveeta is really good for that. Doesn't taste like anything, but it will make other cheeses fuse into it. Okay, well, I disposed of our uninvited guest, and it was only a few degrees off my target, so I guess I'm going to take another peek at it and see if we are there. And also, I have nothing else to do, so... Well, we definitely have cheese leakage now. Possibly because I poked it. We're poking it again. Well, it says 191, 192, and that was my target. And that was right in the dead center, so I guess that means we're done. It feels real soft on the inside, and I feel like my filling might have been grated provolone on salad. That sounds really good. It feels really soft on the inside. We might not be able to get good slices. It's got to rest a little bit. We've got to fish this. I'm going to be smart and not use my fingers. Let me get that out of there. Yeah, it looks better on the other side. Here, let me, oh, my parchment is flaked all over my, so we had some ruptures on this side, and we had some problems with the rolling, so, you know, it is what it is. But if I turn it around, it looks better. It's enormous. I'm going to be eating this for days, which is kind of the plan. I wanted to use stuff up. Or maybe I should eat the whole thing in one go. Strap in for a mukbang. While I just open my neck and take this thing down in one long swallow. I think all my friends are out of town right now. So I want to let it rest a little bit. I know it's not going to come out real clean because we had that big rupture on the side, which again, my fault. Rolled it too thin, didn't flour it properly, should have rolled it onto, or should have constructed it on parchment so I could just lift it up because it tore during the transfer, which is also why the thick side is actually kind of like facing you but downward and should be on the top. The thick side should be, like the extra flap that you use to close it should be the top. And it's not because of the way it kind of didn't work, because you want the bottom to be really thin so that it can cook. Third now, third later, third omelet in the morning. A quarter now, a quarter tomorrow, and then another quarter for another meal tomorrow, and then probably the third quarter on Sunday. Now I knew it was going to be big. I was aiming for big. I wasn't making anything crazy, so I have to make spectacle somehow. You know me. Also, the neighbors aren't home. I just checked. He parks right there, so if he's home, all I gotta do is look out the blind, which I have closed for showtime. So I have to lean over and lift it up. But all I have to do is peek out, and if he's home, his truck is right there. And if he's not, it's not, and it's not. So he's not there, so I can't share this. At least not now, fresh when it's hot. I could give him a chunk of it tomorrow when it's cold and tell him to microwave it. I don't know how we're going to get that off of there. I don't want to cut it on that sheet. I would like to cut it on this sheet. But I'm not sure how we're going to move it. I'm worried the bottom is going to be soft and sticky as well. I'm concerned that if I try to pick it up, the bottom is going to just fall out because of how much juice it leaked out the side. But I suppose, is it hot? It's also very hot. How do we get that off of there without destroying it? The parchment's going to be too brittle to work with as a lever. Let's just make sure it's not stuck too badly. Yeah, see, the parchment tears very easily, so I can't use it as... It's real greasy on the bottom. Remember, there's bacon fat and butter and chicken schmaltz, because we had used chicken thighs and I didn't drain the fat. So it's got a trifecta. So I think the juice on the bottom is actually mostly oils that have leaked out. Not... Which explains why it wasn't boiling. Come on, come on. Aha, that's where it was stuck. On the outer point. Shoot. Can't leave out that on there. It's going to start melting. It's made of plastic. Got it. Okay. We didn't lose all that much in the grand scheme. Close. This is a Stromboli that has had a few structural issues. And is just enormous. Just a gigantic thing. And we're just about to slice. Welcome, welcome. Hi. I want to measure this thing. Where's my little measuring dealie? I'm not sure. I was feeling rather off, so I wanted something that was simple and used up stuff. So it's pre-made pizza dough, chicken thighs, and bacon from my freezer. Bargain bin peppers and onions from the bargain bin. And then we made a sauce, which was also from various bargain things. And then I think I might have melted this sheet pan a little bit. This has measurements on it, so I'm going to use it as a rough guide. "14 inches is what we got. And we're just in time. You're just in time for the slicing. We did have some structural issues with the rolling phase of it. I rolled it out a bit too thin, so it was difficult, and it tore a little bit along that part. And then also, because it was having some structural issues, I couldn't get it situated the right way around. So the thick side, which is the last flap that goes over the top of the roll after you finish rolling it, should be on the top, but it actually starts here and kind of goes under the side near me. So that's actually a very thin side that should have been on the bottom. But yeah, we just took it out. I temped the middle to see if we were getting there. I think we still might have some chewy dough in the middle instead of some nice cooked finished dough. But it's crispy on the outside, even the part that got kind of soaked in the drippings. And I'm going to use a different knife because that is starting to crush, and I don't want to crush this. I want to cut it. So we're going to go with serrated. Yeah, this is my bread knife. Ooh, it's real hot and steamy in there. And yeah, I'm taking slices out of the middle. I would suggest doing this by taking slices off the end, but I know there's going to be a clot of dough there. Oh, it's a little bit of a tough. Ooh. It's still very hot. But that's what the inside looks like. Honestly, looks pretty good. Not too bad. Yes, it's actively steaming like crazy. It's hot enough to make me not want to hold on to it with my left hand. I know, right? Who doesn't like chicken thighs? But you don't have to use chicken thighs. I was just had chicken thighs, and that's what I threw in. If I'd had chicken breast, I would have used that. If I had a bunch of pork, I would have used that. I think if we had gotten this structurally better, because that second slice was a little bit closer to the end. The middle, I think, kind of flattened out because we lost the structure. I think if I had not lost the structure in that way, I would have actually been perfect. So I guess the lesson is roll it out a little bit thicker so that you can hold it together. Because it's nothing's oozing out the interior. We cooked it for sure. And we're just laying a line of sauce across it like so. There. You guys are looking at the wrong. Ta-da! Ta-da! The sauce is, if you remember, I posted the big vat of tomatoes in the slow cooker. This is the results of that. And then I zhuzhed it up over here with some onion powder, some molasses, some sugar, because it was very acidic, so it needed some sweetness to balance it out. And some red wine to kind of give it a little bit more dimension, and I mashed it. We got a big vat of it left, and we got more of the now prepared version. In the slow cooker was just a big pile of tomatoes, a big pile of bell peppers, garlic, and some herbs. The thing is, it was cooked in the slow cooker for 24 hours, which is, I'm pretty sure I caramelized the sugars in the tomatoes, which is why they turned almost brown. They were just like on the near side of brown from red. I'm going to take a picture of this. This came out better than I thought it was going to after seeing the, as Bookwoman said, mother termite that came out. Let's grab a picture. And switch sides. I think it caramelized, but there's no onions in it. There was a little bit of onion in this that I just put on it, but it was onion powder, not full-on onion. Definitely got grease on the bottom of that green sheet. But that is our service plate. So let's give it a taste. To start here where it ruptured because it's going to be the least doughy. We're going to taste it without the sauce first because I want to just see how it came out. Oop. The bottom is solid, but looks like it's been fried more than baked. If we take a peek at it, the bottom looks a little bit like it's like fried dough. We got a little cheese stretch. Mmm. Mmm. Chicken, bacon, some sweetness from the onions. It's got a very fatty, greasy flavor, but isn't like super greasy in the mouth. Definitely tastes like it's bad for you. It also tastes like we used cheap bacon, which we did, but it has that kind of cheaper bacon flavor. I don't think I know anyone who would not like this flavor. But you probably wouldn't like it because of the knowledge that there's chicken thigh in it. Chicken thigh is not making a big difference on the flavor here. If you made this with a different piece of chicken, it would probably taste the same. But let's do the next step and try it with the sauce. Oh, it's rich. It could go with, it could use a side salad. Mmm. Mmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mmm. Oh, that sausage goes so well with it. It's still fairly acidic, so it's cutting through that fatty richness. And it's giving a very, I think it's because I added the sugar. It doesn't taste so much sweet, but it tastes fruity, but in a sort of dark, savory way. Mmm. And it's also got a little bit of spice to it, which the actual thing has no spice in it. The sauce is really good. Sauce is way better with the thing than it is on its own. I was a little worried about the sauce, honestly. I think we already had structural problems. Um, we already had structural problems. I think adding more liquidy ingredients to the interior would make it even less structurally sound. I thought about doing that, but you don't want too much liquid in there. I cooked out the onions and the peppers. I cooked out the chicken and the bacon. I cooked all these things out so they didn't have any of their moisture. Not, they weren't dry, it was bone, but I cooked off I cooked them out and then I cooked off the moisture in the pan. When I put them in there, everything was oily but dry. Like there wasn't a bunch of juice. Not that we sealed this. It would have been even worse if we'd done like a crimp seal. But it still wants to be relatively contained, and this stuff is a little. I had to cook it down quite a bit. So I would have, I suppose if I had cooked it down to more like a paste and then put it in there, we could have gotten that flavor without adding a bunch of liquid. But that is the concern, is you don't want a bunch of extra liquid inside of one of these things, because then it's just going to be soup. It's gonna make the bottom crust go soggy, and it's just going to be soup. Speaking of crust, if I find right there the interior limb of our roll, it's pretty chewy. I think rolling it thicker and having less roll is better. I think having that extra little cue in the middle, it's just too encased in the fillings. It's never gonna not be kind of a little doughy thing. That little hook in the middle right there. Although, saying that, the bottom part of it has some bubbling from actually having formed. And again, you can see our cross section here. That should have been the bottom, and that should have been the top with the most heat exposure and given us a crusty, chewy top. But we kind of rolled it over on itself. Well, honestly, it wasn't that much work, which is why I did this. It was some pretty basic filling, and then we rolled the thing up. I did not use the pizza stone. I was more concerned about, if I'd rolled it on, if I'd done what we determined I should have done, which was put down parchment here, then roll the dough out, then roll it up on the parchment, and then use the parchment to lift it. We could have lifted it with that parchment directly onto a pizza stone in the oven. Although then we would have had leakage. There was enough leakage on the pan that it would have been leaking off the side of the pizza stone and gotten on the bottom of my oven and probably smoked up the room. So probably a good thing. But if I had sealed it properly and didn't have to flip it, and it hadn't ruptured along the side, you might not have had that problem. Who's to say? It came out better than I was expecting after how lumpy and torn it looked when it was going in. I guess that just goes to show you how good these doughs can be. And even when you really abuse it, it can pull through. It's really tasty. It's big enough to serve for a party. And it was just one ball of dough. It was just one of, oops, the fly swatter. It was this, because I have another one here. It was this what we started with. One little ball. This guy's still frozen. They take a while to thaw, so I actually started thawing yesterday. And then I took it out completely and just let it sit in the room to thaw, to warm up a bit. And then I also proofed it in the oven, so it wasn't as simple as grab it and go from frozen. But I didn't have to make the dough, which was what I was going for, was something easy because I was tired. And in terms of that, good. And we also cleared a couple of things out of the freezer. There's a space there. There's a space there. Move those hot dogs down. Move those meatballs. Gives me a space there. Yeah. So I guess that's the end of today's adventure. Oops. I guess that's the end of this chapter. Yeah, so have I looked into making 48 or 72-hour dough? I have not. I've heard of such a thing. I have not done so myself or even read about it. We could try it sometime. We could lay it down on Friday and check in with it on Monday. But no, I haven't actually done that myself. I'm going to see who we've got, because we're now coming on to the end of all things. Where can we send you? Let's see. There's some cooking going on. Otherwise, there's my follows. Let's check who's on. A lot of Elden Ring today. What do you guys think? If you have an opinion. I'm thinking maybe we go see Jim. Otherwise, we could potentially grab a random from the cooking category. I haven't done that in a while. It's sometimes a little hit and miss. It's hard to tell what they're doing. Well, this one's called Cook Dinner with Mom. The channel is Dinner with Mom, and their title is just Dinner with Mom and Dad. So it looks like they're making potato chips. So let's go say hi. They've only been up for 30 minutes, so they're not ending now, which is always a concern. We're gonna check out a random. So yes, thank you all for showing up. Thank you for being here with me today, cheering me up, energizing me. I'm gonna go sit down and be tired again after this. Eat this delicious food. Thanks to, I've got a raid window over the top of it. Thanks to Megs, Jay, Bookwoman, and then Megs again for gift subs to Cybertraz and FLCL. That's 5. I think that's my record. Yeah, Ryuya. Glad you could be here. Sorry you couldn't be here a little bit earlier to see more of the process. But always glad to see you when you can. I don't really have a raid message. You know what I do. I just a jovial raid with my little happy guy. There's the countdown, so I guess I'll just wait it out. See you on Monday.